The beginning of the story starts from the hot desert. Here, a car was moving fast. Inside the car, there was a married couple. The husband's name was Sean and his wife's name was Livia. A man was walking in front of their car, who probably needed a lift. Sean stopped the car a little ahead because he wanted to give the man a lift. But when Livia refused, he ran the car again. The man coming behind stopped and looked at his car. The man with these intoxicating eyes was Norman. He keeps staring at the car until the car disappeared in front of his eyes. After a while, Sean and Livia come to a hotel. While driving the car, Sean was very tired, while Livia was about to become a mother. That's why the two of them needed a lot of rest. They were going to rest here tonight and start the journey ahead tomorrow. The next morning, both of them get ready and start the journey ahead again. These people were going to meet Livia's mother. Sean was driving the car continuously and then suddenly the front tire of the car breaks, causing an accident in their car. Because of the accident, Sean was badly injured. He was bleeding a lot. But still, the injured Sean quickly gets out of the car and takes Livia out. Sean was very worried about his pregnant wife. Taking Livia out, Sean tries to drive the car, but the car does not move forward because his tires were stuck in the sand. Now Sean opens the trunk of the car, but he does not find any spare tire in the trunk. Actually, Sean forgot to keep a spare tire in the car, which makes him very angry with himself. In the scorching heat of the desert, these two could not stay for long. Sean quickly draws a map and starts looking for a town nearby. Looking at the map, he tells Livia that there is a small town 6 miles away from here. Hearing this, Livia says that it is difficult to walk 6 miles. Sean explains to her that we have no other way because the hotel where we stayed is 50 miles away from here, while this town is only 6 miles away. Livia asks him to wait for a lift, but Sean explains to her that we did not see any car on the way, so it is not difficult to get a lift here, it is impossible. Livia also did not have any other way, so she agrees with Sean. After a while, they both started walking towards the same road that was 6 miles away from their car. 2:09, after walking 6 miles, 2:11, they both reached the town, but they did not see anyone in this town. Looking at this empty town, it seemed as if the people living here had disappeared in one moment. They both sat at one place and waited for someone to come, but no one came. They both were thirsty because of the heat. Sean comes to get water in a trailer, but he does not get water anywhere. Livia sees someone outside, after which she is happy and calls Sean quickly. Livia saw Norman, who was asking for the same lift, but Livia refused Sean to help him. They both thought that Norman must be living here, so they both tell him the whole story, that how his car's tire burst and how he reached here in search of help. Along with this, they both tell Norman their name and ask Norman his name. Norman tells his name and says that I have also come here to seek help. My car's fuel ran out and there is no station far from here. The three of them were in a deserted town and the three of them needed help. After a while, the three of them had come to an empty house. Norman gave his water to Livia while he was drinking with Sean. Meanwhile, Livia tells Norman that I am going to be a mother. Norman congratulates her and says that your child will be born just fine. After a while, it was night. The three of them decided to spend the night here because it was difficult to get help at night. The three of them were sitting by the fire talking. Meanwhile, Norman asks Livia that are you going to be a mother for the first time? In response, Livia tells him that Sean is my second husband. I have one son from my first husband. My son's name is Ronnie and he is 6 years old. After this, Livia shows Norman a picture of Ronnie. Norman looks at the picture carefully and returns it to Livia. After a lot of thinking, the three of them decide that as soon as morning comes, Sean's car will be refueled and put in Norman's car so that the three of them can leave this place. After this, Sean and Livia started sleeping while Norman left them alone and went to one side. The next morning, Livia starts looking for something in her purse. After a lot of trying, she couldn't find that thing, so she got very upset. Seeing her upset, Sean asks her why she is upset and Livia tells her that she couldn't find Ronnie's picture even though she had kept it in the car. After a while, Sean and Norman start moving towards Sean's car even though Livia had stopped alone in the town. Meanwhile, Sean and Norman were still moving forward. After walking in this hot desert, Sean was very tired and that's when Norman sits next to him and asks him how long has it been. Sean tells him that it's going to be 2 years. Norman says that your wife is very nice. I think you must have a big house and 2 cars. Sean says that I am lucky, maybe that's why I have everything. Hearing this, Norman comes to him and says that I know people like you very well. People like you do things that they shouldn't do. Sean thought that was weird, so he tells him that you don't know anything about me, so let's end this here. Both were talking like this and that's when Norman says that no one can suppress the truth because in the end, it comes out. Sean didn't understand what he was talking about, so he tells him to walk towards the car. Norman listens to him and walks towards the car and Sean follows him. That's when Livia hears a voice and comes inside the house. There were many pictures on the wall. In these pictures, there were pictures of Ronnie and Sean, and Livia was very surprised to see them. On the other side, Sean and Norman had reached Sean's car. Sean starts preparing to remove the fuel, but when he calls Norman for help, he is nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, Sean starts hearing the sound of flies buzzing from the trunk of the car. When he opens the trunk of the car, he starts crying. Livia's son Ronnie's dead body was lying in the trunk of the car, so Sean was crying. On the other side, Livia was still looking at the pictures and that's when Norman comes behind her. Livia was very scared to see Norman around her. She asks him about Sean and Norman tells her that he will reach here soon. Now Livia asks him why this town is so strange. Norman tells her that sinners are punished in this town. There are pictures of people who have sinned on this wall. Now Livia asks him who punishes these sinners. Instead of answering this, he tells Livia that your husband is a sinner and he can do anything for his happiness. Livia doesn't believe him when Norman started putting bullets in his gun. Livia was very scared to see this. As soon as Norman puts his gun down, Sean also reaches there. He sees Norman and asks him who he is. Norman tells him that he is a messenger sent by God and his job is to punish sinners. Today I have come here for you so that I can punish you. After hearing Norman, Sean goes crazy. He picks up a tool in anger and cuts Norman's finger. Then he asks Norman about his car. Norman tells him that his car is absolutely fine and it is across the water tank. Sean didn't believe Norman, so he took him to the water tank. After a while, all 3 of them reached the water tank, but all 3 were scared because there was a huge graveyard ahead of them. All 3 quickly left the graveyard, but on the way, Sean asks Norman why it is open. Norman tells him that one of the 3 graves is for him. Along with this, he tells Sean to tell his wife about what happened to Ronnie. Both were surprised to hear Norman. Livia asks Sean about her son Ronnie, but Sean doesn't say anything. In the end, when Livia asks him many times, Sean tells her that Ronnie was killed in an accident in his boarding school last week and he died there. Sean kept this a secret from Livia because Livia sent Ronnie to boarding school. He didn't like Ronnie, so he wanted to keep his mother away from Livia. Knowing the whole truth, Livia hated Sean. She comes to Norman so that she can punish Sean, but Norman tells her to shoot Sean. Livia listens to him and shoots him, which kills Sean. Now Norman prays and his cut finger heals. Livia asks him, "What sin did I commit?" Norman tells her that your sin is to be unaware. You were so immersed in your husband's love that you didn't even know about your son. He says this and leaves while Livia slowly dies of hunger and thirst. Norman used to bring all the sinners to this same town and punish them. Out of the 3 graves that Norman dug, one was Sean's, one was Livia's and one was his son Ronnie's. And this is where the story ends.